Hey, geometry, this is chapter 1, section 7. This is our first example. We want to identify the solid and then name its bases, faces, edges, and vertices. So it is got a base. The base is a square. It comes up to a point. So that makes this one, and I'll just type it in. This makes this a square pyramid, if you want to get really specific. Name the base. The base of a pyramid is the bottom here, not the part that comes to a point. And so the bottom shape is a square, and it is going to be square A, B, C, D. Name the faces. Okay, well, the faces are the 4 triangles here. Okay, and the base. The base is part of a face. So we have a square, so I need to put a square up here. And you can just write square, you don't have to write the whole thing out. So it would be square A, B, C, D. Then you have your triangles. So let me grab some triangles here. There we go. Copy that, Control C. So triangle, and this face right here is ABE. And then I have triangle BCE. And then I have the back one CDE. And then I have this other back one DAE. DAE. Okay. And you can use symbols for squares and triangles. You don't have to write the whole word out like I did here. You could have used just a symbol for a square and said pyramid. You could have used a symbol for a square and said A, B, C, D, just like I did down here. Name the edges. Remember, edges are these lines, so we've got a line AB, BC, CD, DA. But then we also have edges that come up, so we're going to have AE, BE, CE, and DE. So let me get those all listed in here. So you've got AB, and then you've got BC, and then you go around, you get CD, and then you've got D goes back to A, and then we've got to start and go up. So that gave me AB, this edge, BC, that edge, CD, that edge, DA, that edge, and I'm going to go A to E, and then I'm going to go B to E, and then we go CD, C to E, C to E, and then D to E. And each one of the edges is a segment, and so then I've got to go grab my segment and say that's segment AB, segment BC, segment CD, segment DA, segment AE, segment BE, segment CE, and segment DE are my edges. And then the last part I need to do is name all of my vertices. Vertices are the points. So point A, point B, point C, point D, and point E. So it's going to be A, B, C, D, E. Commas between. Okay. So that would be naming all the different parts of my solid figure here. Let's try another one together. So naming the solid, identify it. Well, the 2 parallel sides. These 2 sides are parallel and they're rectangles. These 2 sides are parallel and they're rectangles. And this front side and that back side are parallel, and those are rectangles. So this is a rectangular prism. I must have spelled rectangular wrong. Okay, rectangular prism. The base. We're going to assume, since it's a rectangular prism, that the part that it's sitting on is the base. And so the base is a rectangle, so I'll grab my rectangle shape. So it is a rectangle. And so my base is going to be rectangle A, B, C, D. And then we could also have, oops, come on, rectangle, comma. You could have the top, right, because that was the other base. So it would be H, F, E, G, or E, F, oh, this is kind of out of order, E, F, H, G. E, F, HG. Okay. So those in this case, I'm going to assume that those two are my bases, just because it's sitting on this. I could have listed the two sides this way as my bases, or I could have used the front and the back as my two bases. Name the faces. Okay, so now I got to name all of them. So I've got these two that I already did. So I'm just going to place those down here. And then I've got 4 more to name. So I've got another rectangle. So I did the top and the bottom, so now I can do the front. So this would be C, D, H, G. So C, D, H, G. I'm halfway there. Okay, after C, D, H, G, that was the front, C, D, H, G. I could go to the side over here, so that would be C, A, E, G. C, A, E, G. Just make sure you go around the edges in order, or around the vertices in order. I could not call this C, E, then A, then G. I could call it C, G, E, A, though. Right? I could go this way around the rectangle, or I can go this way around the rectangle. Or I could start from E and go E, G, C, A. But I cannot go G, then A, then E, then C. I can't make diagonals across there to name it. Okay, I think I need to move this whole thing up just a little bit. Up just a little bit. Okay. And then after C, A, E, G, let's go to the back side. The back side would be A to B to F to E. So A, B, F, E. And my last one, would be this side over here, so B, D, H, F. B, D, H, F. So B, D, H, F. And then I need to put in a couple more rectangles here to name them. So rectangle and rectangle. Oops, come on. All right, so those are my faces. The edges. Edges, again, are my segments here. So I'm going to have AC. I'll just go around the bottom, go around the top, and then do the vertical, the ones that go up and down. So I've got A to C, C to D, D to B, B to A. So I'm going to have A to C, and then C to D, then D to B, and then B to A. That gets me around the bottom. Again, that's C, A to C, C to D, D to B, B back to A. I can go around the top. So E to G, G to H, H to F, F to E. So I'm going to do the E to G first. So E to G, then G to H, then H to F, and then F back to E. Okay, and then the last ones I'm going to do is the ones that go up and down. So I need to do this C to G, this E to A, this D to H, and this B to F. So let's get those done. So that's going to be C to G, A to E, B to F, and those are D to H. Okay, and then they are all segments, so then I need to grab my segment tool. So it's segment AC, segment CD, segment DB, segment BA, segment EG, segment GH, segment HF, segment FE, segment CG, segment AE, segment BF, and segment DH. And then the last part is to name all the vertices, so those are my corner points. So I have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H are all of my vertices. So I've got A, bring this down a bit, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Oh, and H. Right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I got them all. Okay, so that's identifying them all. It's time for your turn, so why don't you do this one and then come back and check your work when you're ready. Push pause. Okay, so if you push pause, this one's kind of a little bit tricky. It is called a cone. Its base would be circle T. It doesn't have any faces. It doesn't have any edges. It does have a vertex, and its vertex is W.